Root to the Bros. You know, this is our second Omega Round Table Talk Purple and Gold edition. I am your host, Haven Nelson, KI20. Shout out to them. Right here, I have to my left Andy Burns.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Yeah.
The House Psycho, H-Dog, Kappa Iota Chapter 13.
Rue. Okay, all right. To my right, got Brian Locke here.
How y'all doing? Brian Locke, 620 KI, hard drive.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Before I actually jump into the topics for today, I wanted to take a moment. We put to rest our brother Donald Stone Jr. yesterday.
Yeah.
So wanted to take a moment and just give him his roses and respect. He's one of the brothers who really welcomed myself in personally. You know, open arms.
Yeah.
Opened up to us, gave us great info, spent a lot of fellowship and time with that brother. So wanted to definitely put that out there.
Yeah. Stone is that brother that's gonna try you. Yeah, he's definitely challenge you.
Right.
I mean, if you ain't really sure,
Yeah.
he gonna make you sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And he gonna speak his mind too.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's one thing for sure. So
Yeah.
definitely wanted to
Omega.
do that for us.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely rest in Omega.
Yes. Secondly, so speaking of Black History Month, we have some precious history with that ourselves, right? As a
Absolutely.
Organization. And do you mind speaking to that?
Oh man, so we can talk about, when he came to Nashville.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had a little conversation. And it was pretty much his speech, and it was
Real quick, who is he? Carter G.
Yeah.
All right. You got to put it out there. Go ahead.
No, but see, and this is why I love being a brother. You know what I mean? I'm gonna give you something that you gotta
go do that.
I
got you.
But so what we're speaking of is Carter G. Woodson.
Yeah.
And he gave a speech in Nashville, and it was Democracy and the Man Far Down. And in it, he was explaining about our history and what we needed to do. And from that was born Negro History Week. Mm-hmm. And from that point, that's where it began. The thing that I love about that is he was already igniting something that was already there. Mm-hmm. It was an opportunity to bring everybody together and say, hey, look, we got people all over the globe that's, knowing that we need to advance. Let's go ahead and start this the right way, right?
Yep.
Let's use this energy. And I think that's the thing about Black history that I get a little controversial about, because I think we got away from that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think back in the days, they had all types of motivation. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? People were losing their lives. If you think about, Tulsa and how it was the Mecca for Black finance and how it was taken away. Mm-hmm. That way of life was born out of necessity. Mm-hmm. Like now, we seem to be okay with what it is.
Gotcha. Complacent.
Get complacent, and it's because we're disconnected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. To add to that, I'd say that it seems as if in the late 60s, early 70s, when a lot of our figureheads, a lot of our movements were being cut off.
Yeah.
That's kind of when it seems to me that frustration came out.
Yeah.
And people just kind of threw their hands up and walked off.
Yeah.
And to what you just said, that's what happened. It's just people just kind of lost that fire. That fire went out.
Well, I think I like to think I'd like to think that fire started to burn out like in the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you think about the 50s, the 50s, it was a whole, the racism at that point was so blatant that they were still killing us like it was nothing.
Yeah.
More often than than not. Then you get to the 60s, and 60s, everybody is you going through different changes in the roaring 60s, and everybody trying to find themselves. But there was the 70s, man. The 70s is when we got our consciousness, and that's when our culture was on blast.
Yes.
It came even down to the hair, right? The afro and what that meant. You know what I mean? The music was strong and reflected. You know what I mean? James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
You don't think we're getting back to that? I mean, I feel like there's definitely been a huge spark more with natural hair, right? And I think it kind of went, like you said, it kind of I don't know, it wasn't there for a moment, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's, and even just speaking more so of fire, right? Like, so just cultural music. I think there's been definitely a thing of more the woke culture, right? I think that's kind of came back around. And even when we talk about the fire, there's been a lot of things that have happened over these past few years that have created a lot of protests.
Yeah.
So I now, and with that being said, with the protests, my question is, I know there's different ways of protesting.
Right.
A lot of different ways you can go. Do you all feel like when it comes to marching as a form of protest, what are your thoughts on that? How beneficial is it? Is it not beneficial? What are you all's thoughts?
So if we go back to the civil rights protest marches, Martin Luther King, Southern Leadership Council, they got together and they wanted to highlight what was happening to black people. They did their marches, arm in arm, lots of, and it wasn't all just black people. It was white people, it was Jewish folks, it was people of Asian descent, and they were trying to highlight what was happening to black people. And their messaging was, this is what we want to change. So you see this oppression by the police. We can see the videos where people are just marching down the street, and then here come the police, dogs and batons and everything else. And so, but they had a message of, this is what we want to change. Fast forward to now, I think they have their messaging, but it's not as pronounced as it was then. So for instance, when you see a guy in the street or and he's getting beat over the head with a baton, that striking is a visual you get that visual perception. And now when you see somebody protesting in the street now, you're not necessarily seeing that baton over the guy's head. Not to say that it hasn't happened, right, but that visual perception of the anger and frustrations isn't necessarily there. So I think the messaging now gets a little lost in comparison to
it's interesting you say that, because I feel like the messaging is lost because there's no action and organization behind what's going on, right?
Right.
So when we talk about protesting, I'm more of the Malcolm X philosophy. You know what I mean?
And that was actually going to be a question. Because there was movement, right, in two different directions. So go ahead.
Absolutely. And you hit the different heads, two different directions. I'm by any means necessary, right? Okay. So I do believe in protesting, but I also believe in action and results, right? Okay. So if we walk in just to say, it's part of the culture and it's what's happening right now, then it's a no for me, right? The other part of that is being prepared when you protest. I understand the nonviolence, and I'm with that. I mean, I will not, strike anyone or, out of anger just because I have a bad day. But I'm gonna also tell you, don't come my way with that. Yeah, you know what I mean. I think one of the biggest problems I have is us as a people not being prepared in the world that we're living in. Okay. And what I mean by that is, if you're in a situation where you stop and you see something that's going wrong as far as racism goes, and then that other person pulls out a gun, you should be prepared. You should do your due diligence, go through legal channels, make sure that you have your level of protection on you. You shouldn't be out in a situation where it can cause you bodily harm and you're not prepared, right? And that's with everything, right? Yeah,
that's life in general.
I think we need to have lawyers on retainers. You know what I mean? Okay. You said something earlier that I've been thinking about, and the one thing that I would say about now when it comes to being woke, I think we're in a good place as far as individuals understanding the things that happen. Right. We are not organized to make real moves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, back previously, the Black church played a major role in the organization and was an entity behind a lot of following, right? And pushing an agenda as well. Right. So I'm hearing that you feel like there's a missing piece to help push the agenda and organize the agenda. What do you all think about groups like Black Lives Matter? Some of the, what are your opinions? Right. There are organizations out there, let's be honest and transparent, but so I just want to hear your opinion.
Well, So let me use Fred Hampton as an example.
Yeah.
Fred Hampton in Chicago, 1819. He comes up and he's organizing black people, young black people, and he's saying, "This is what we want." And if we can't get it, he joined up with the Black Panthers and he said, "Free lunch program in Chicago."
Right.
They were working on a medical facility.
Yeah.
They're handing out lunches and books to kids. Okay. And so he's organized. And, for those that don't know, the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, COINTELPRO, and the Chicago police, they murdered him. Yeah. Shot him in the back while he was sleeping. But all that to say is that figure, we don't have an organization or a figurehead like a Fred Hampton to do like what you said, like put those actions, make those actions visible. Like we don't have like, okay, what do you want? Well, we want people to stop this. Well, how do you want to implement that?
Right.
Like what's the plan? What is it? What is the plan that you want implemented? And you don't necessarily hear what that plan is. It's like, hey, stop. Okay. Well, how do you want that plan implemented?
Okay. Because they try us like we got a short attention span.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yep. Like if you think about, like you said, so let's go back to the Black Lives Matter. So I struggle with that, right? Okay. Because I do understand at some point there are some really important things that some of those guys in the Black Lives Matter movement is doing. Here's where it goes a little left to me. The black culture has been for sale for the last 10 to 15 years. Right?
Elaborate.
And so for example, if you look on TV,
that's strong, man.
Look, check it out. Look on TV.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Just product promotion to shows. Yeah. You see every bit of our culture in it. Yeah, and it's been so watered down that we don't even pay attention to it anymore, right? So when you start to see, as United States, and you see every facet making money off your culture, then when you get into some of these movements, you're gonna have somebody that's gonna be, I love my culture, but if they making money off it, I'm gonna make money off it too. So I say that in the spirit of Black Lives Matter. I'm applauding all of those people who are positive, have been making changes, but in every organization, and it's been more prevalent these last few years, where you start to see people having their own agenda, making money off the culture. And I think that has a lot to do with not knowing our history and being connected and having that spirit, right? Like you said, Fred joined the Panthers because he needed to find someone that was like-minded, right? Right? Who are we gonna join, right? If you think about it, I'm gonna join Black Lives Matter, and then you have some people who are really doing some things, and you get behind that, and then you start to get into the business part of Black Lives Matter. So now we have to do this for that. You know what I mean? Right. We have to trade. And at that point, sometimes you lose the whole plight of the movement. Okay. So,
I cannot disagree with what you just said, because I feel the same thing. It's like, okay, once you get to the business side, and that's what I think is different now than then, is the business side. There's a more focus there, and it's, well, hey man, when I'm looking at the two movements, these guys actually enacted change. Yeah. You're not.
Because that was the business. If you want to know what their chief product was, changing the lifestyle for the betterment of black people. Right.
Yes.
Right now, we don't know really why we're doing it other than money. Right. Or so let's say this. If you look at product placement when it comes to, the last commercial I saw was the Toyota commercial, right? And they're sitting there, everybody was like jamming, and you know what I mean? They got the latest grooves and steps, and I'm looking like, you wouldn't have seen that 15 years ago.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't see that. And then here's the thing that kills me, right? Now we got diversity, right? when we look at, the music that they're playing, they got the beat to it and the scratching, there's diversity in that. Let's go over to a commercial that is sitting in an executive type of financial institution, right? Let's see what that table looks like. How diverse is that going to be, right? And if it's diverse, what message are you sending that says this is possible for the Black culture, right? It's like we always share when it comes to what our original plight is when it pertains to us individuals, individual as a culture. And so what I mean by that is, if you're Black, you're expected to share your culture. But if you look at other cultures, they don't really necessarily have to share, right? And when their story is told, the story is told with their history, right? So if you look at I'll say, let's stick with
I mean, look, so I hear what you're saying on that too, but at the same time, the culture, for you talking about other races and cultures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man, we've been in a position in America where, unfortunately, the white culture was shared. Like, that is the shared culture and forced down our throats, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that is so. I'm just responding. You said, like, they don't have to share. Like, it was forced all the way through. That's all they've been doing is, it's really forcing that culture. And then, like you said, now we're starting to see Black culture come up on TV commercials and stuff like that, or that wasn't always the case. You watch TV, you'll be straight white culture.
Now maybe I may have the wrong name here, but Daryl Hannah back in the 70s.
Okay.
She put cornrows in her hair.
Oh, you talking about I know what you're talking about.
So if I got the wrong name, don't hold that against me.
Yeah, I don't even know.
So it was a movie back in the days.
Yeah. But she wore cornrows.
Yeah.
And Black women, Black men have had cornrows, hair like yours. We have done that since we've been in America.
Yeah.
And it's been used to say, well, you see their hair? That's where they're not like us. It's been used as a discriminatory practice. But then when she goes and does what Black women have done, it's, she's stepping out. Yeah. She's beautiful. Look, she's so bold. And it's like, okay, hold on, time out.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at, why is that?
I have a theory, right? So my theory has always been our culture gets jacked because of what it stands for, the passion, right, that we have. The ability that we can make something out of nothing, right? Yeah. And because of that, we are very strong when it comes to fighting or being vocal when something's not right.
Yeah.
So our hair represents that, right? And so you feel some people, like what you just mentioned, they want to adopt that. And then it gets kind of subdued. And so now it's palatable, right?
Right.
It's like, I always wanted to do this, right? And I don't know if you ever met that one guy that comes up and you finally get cool. He's like, hey, man, I always wanted to say this, like, for sizzle. What? Nah, dog. I don't really know you like that. Like, you cool and whatnot, and I just got to know you. But for real, if that ain't you, why would you come at me like that?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's that same thing.
Yeah.
It's like they take the best part of us and then try to make it palatable.
And let me add to that by saying, if we go back in history to minstrel shows, what the minstrel shows did, what those musicians did was, the majority of their songs they got from Black people.
Yeah.
They would go, and whether they were enslaved, once they got out of slavery, they heard the songs that they were playing. And we think, when you hear country music, you think white people. I mean, that's what we do.
Right.
That music came from us, though.
Yeah.
The banjo came from Africa.
Absolutely.
And so those minstrel shows, those guys went out and they heard what these songs these Black people were making, and they said, I like that. I'm gonna go and perform it. Yeah. And they co-opted what these. Now, granted, at that time, you couldn't be a Black person and go out and tour, with that type of music. But it's the fact that they co-opted that music, and the Black people didn't get credit for it. And you see that throughout history, where our hair, our style of dress, you go back to the 80s,
right.
You know, I'm an 80s baby, and you
Yeah.
see what we were wearing, and it's, thugs, right?
Yeah.
But who are the people who are primarily buying those clothes?
Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah.
You know, so our culture consistently has been taken, you know, and used, and people have made money off of it without giving credit to the people who originated that culture.
Yeah.
Well, now, and I'll even say, I'm going to disagree with you to the point of today, right? Like, they'll give credit today, but credit don't pay the bill. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, you know, the most amazing thing about all the things that's happening today, all of the things that we get credit for are things that we should have got credit for 20 years ago, right? So you were talking earlier about, well, you know, white man came and they forced their culture on us. There were a couple of us that didn't accept it, right? And if you think about it, that's how Black history for us has always been. There's always been a group of us who said that this wasn't enough, and I know what you're doing, and I feel what you're doing, but that still don't help my plight, right?
Yeah. Doing it, giving us just enough credit, right?
Right.
Thinking that's gonna be, well, let me just toss them that, they'll be okay.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so now,
Gotcha.
and here's the other thing, they'll even pick the person that they're going to give it to.
Yeah.
Right. So you could be in need, you could be in your area, and you could be like the expert and the person who has put everything together in your community. And so you have pretty much replaced the church. You know, when we talk about the church analogy, right? And so, say you got 300 people in your community, and now they're coming in, and you have been going out and you have been proactively saying, this is what my community needs. I need this done for this person, and Miss Henrietta needs this and this, and I need you to come to our community to make sure we get it, and I am going to be the facilitator.
Okay.
And they'll be like, well, let's see, how can we market Haven to a bigger market and use him in order to make money off of him, right?
Yeah. Great spokesperson.
Right. So, but the only reason you got into it is you was really trying to help the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So when you go to, you're like, nah, I'm here to help the community, right? Whatever your agenda is, if you don't come back and help the community, I'm cool. So now they go and find Miss Henrietta, right? And they go to her, and Miss Henrietta just came to you to say, hey, I need this done. You know what I mean?
Understood.
So they come to her and say, listen, we'll give you all of this to do this, to say that what Haven was doing was wrong, and you can step up and you can be this spokesperson, right? That's the manipulation of what's been happening.
Okay.
And so that's what I mean. They actually give it to the wrong person in respect to the overall push of what you're trying to do, right? Because all she's really needing is this, but what she really needs, as far as, you know, the overall making sure that the community is good, is somebody to advocate for us, and that's what's happening. We don't have anybody to advocate. Matter of fact, let's ask this question: who right now, modern day, would you say is a civil rights leader?
Modern day.
Modern day. Yeah, you see that?
Yeah, you can't really. And I was actually talking about my wife and some of my cousins about that. I can't think of anybody.
No.
You know, like, who is fighting for civil rights? You know, and civil rights is equality, but it's also justice.
That's what I was going to ask my next question. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of pushing the movement, and I'm hearing the lack of somebody to do it, organization to do it. But what, in modern day right now, what would that movement be? What are we asking for? You know, so.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
So when I look at the plight of Black people, right? One of the things you hear a lot of the times is black on black crime. I hate that term, because we don't say white on white crime.
Yeah.
When the
White people
Italians
killing white
were in New York and they were doing their thing, running New York,
Yeah.
you know, we didn't say Italian on Italian crime, you know, but what I would like to see is a concerted effort, and that concerted effort would have to start with kindergarten age kids, right? And we say we want to change the environments, or at least the paths of what these kids are, because we've all heard the cycle.
Right.
I mean the circle, right? Somebody grows up, they grow up in this environment, they come right around, have a kid, and that kid grows up in that same environment. And so what I'd like to see is as far as change is, let's start with kindergarten age kids. Let's make a change. Let's try to push these kids and give them access and resources like a lot of these other kids do. Okay. Let's try to deter them from that cycle. Let's try to break that cycle. And
and when you say that, are you from resources, so more funding to the schools, more mentorship, what like those type of things,
social workers, like
okay.
if you I'm aware that there are kids who go to school who, and in our community, not to say that it's not just in our community, right? And so this is why these changes can help not just us, but all people. But, I'm going to focus on us and say that I know of kids who in high school, sophomores and juniors, they have to go to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's a must.
A lot of us, we go to work because we want to. We want to go and, buy some shoes, get some clothes. But these kids have to go to work.
It's a necessity.
Yeah. And so we want to change that, because as a sophomore in high school, that kid shouldn't be forced to have to do that.
Right.
And we're in America. We're supposed to have all of this money, all of this access, all of this free, everything.
Yeah.
We should be able to address that problem so that we can change that environment that kid has to grow up in.
Well, but you know what that is, though? That's a legal issue, right? So to give you my take on it, right? Me personally, I would rather for us to go back and put the whole reparations thing on the table. And for me, it definitely is money.
Okay.
We were promised 40 acres.
So that's the agenda. Like,
absolutely.
If you had to pick one, so yours would be, environmental.
Well, it's. I would say we're probably on the same page.
No, y'all not on the same page.
Well,
yours is environment.
Hold on.
So, I'm not. Listen, and you can. I'm saying, like, of course, reparations could be a part of what your agenda would be, but I'm just saying, like, your initial was more kids, right?
I'm leading with reparations.
Yours is leading with, and neither one is wrong, of course.
No, that's perspective.
I want reparations too.
Understood.
Yeah.
I think both are important.
I'm a little radical, right? So what I'm saying is,
and what does that look like? When you say reparations, I know we were promised 40 acres and mule, right? Like, what do you think it would be? What would reparations look like now?
So it's funny you say that. And people will say it's impossible when you look at the economics of it and you break it down. But when you look at our debt and what we're dealing with, it's not impossible. You know what I mean? Yep. And it can be done just as quickly as people got their $2,400 when it came to the stimulus, right? I want either. Now, we can do it on a small, layman's term. You can give me what that would equate to when you said it way back when.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, you can't give me 40 acres and a mule at this point, but I'm pretty sure you can give me the cash equivalent.
Yeah.
Right. You can give me the cash equivalent, right?
And
but the other reason that I need that is because now you have so many black people that understand the financial institution the way that it is now and how to make money through the market, but don't have the initial investment to do so.
Very true.
Most people say, I got $2,000 I can put in the market. In the grand scheme of things, if you're really trying to grow it, $2,000 ain't gonna do it.
Exactly.
$2,000 ain't gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really serious about it, you're looking at 100,000, right? You can do it with 50, but will 50 grow as much as 100,000? No. But here's the flip side, the other piece to the reparations. It forces America to say that, I actually
messed up. 400 years of free labor.
We did.
I need my money. Yeah,
exactly. Run it.
My money.
Well, when we're talking reparations, people tend to think, well, slavery was, a long time ago. Well, it's not just slavery. We're talking Jim Crow.
Yes.
So we're talking the black codes. We're talking red light. We're talking all of this.
But I'm gonna be honest. The reason I don't get into that is all of that I feel is rhetoric to keep us thinking like we're thinking, right? If like, say for example, they'll say, well, like you just said, slavery was so long ago, right?
Yeah.
But we can say that when you talk about 9/11, they say never forget, right?
Right.
So here's my thing. If you're gonna keep me arguing with someone who is a firm believer in what happened with 9/11, and there's no disrespect to that at all, why are we arguing, to be honest with you? Because to be truthful, I want my people to be remembered too, and that meant something to me.
Yes.
And I understand on your spectrum, you may not be able to see that. But at the end of the day, that's not going to help me get my 40 acres of the mule. That's not going to help me get counted out. So I don't want to get into an argument with that.
Do y'all think, do you think that voting is an essential piece, like, to get in the agenda and who we get in office? What are your thoughts?
I probably need to sit back on this one.
No, I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
I'm going to be honest with y'all at this point. And I'm gonna be truthful. At one point, I did not vote, and the reason I did, I tell you what I did.
Okay.
I want to say it was like 98. I didn't vote. No, I'm sorry. 1 year I didn't vote because there wasn't a good candidate, and the reason I didn't vote is every black person that I was talking to was saying, people died for your right to vote. Mm-hmm. People died for you to go up and make a change. Mm-hmm. Well, with respect to that, they died for me to have the freedom to do it, right? So if I'm going through and I'm seriously seeing that it's not a candidate, and I had to do my research, right? Because I was truly hurt. Like, there's nobody standing up for us at all. And so we're gonna choose somebody because the lesser of the two evils, I can't do it. I can't do it. I've had my own historical background issues to now learn that people say the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. They both devils.
Yeah,
understand.
Understood.
So I can't deal with it.
Have you ever skipped a year of voting?
No.
All right, why not?
But so I feel the need to go. Like, I have this right. I should go exercise this right.
Gotcha. Understood.
But what are you exercising right for?
And well, also, so let's look at Trump, right? I'm going to use Trump. I look at Trump and say, this man almost got us into World War III by messing around with the Iranians.
Yeah.
He rolled back a lot of environmental protection. Yeah. Controls.
He's bold as hell, man.
Our community. So for our communities, because of the history of redlining, there are chemical plants around our communities. There's all sort. Howard's football field was built on top of a landfill. You know, so when I see what he was doing, I'm like, he can't keep doing these things that are impacting us. Not to say that Biden won't. Yeah. Not to say that the other folks won't, but that is having direct impacts on us. And I'm like, okay, man, that guy's got to go.
Well, he has to go for more than just that. I think for me, it was everything before it, right? There's no way in the world that the Republican Party knew. Well, let me say that this way because I almost said the wrong thing. There was no way in the world that they didn't know that this dude was off the chain. Oh, from jump.
Yeah.
They knew.
Right. I mean, yeah, shows and everything.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But what their agenda was like, we gonna ride this pony until it does what it does, right. And then when the pony actually gets land, like free places to run, he like, yeah, I'm finna wild out. I'm finna push this presidency and do things that are within my rights to when it comes to nobody being able to legally stop me, right? Like, I mean, it might be some quorums, but I ain't gonna go to jail for it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So he pushed the envelope.
He pushed the envelope.
Yeah, he did. And so because of that, I think it has killed for me how the political arena is looked at. Like, no disrespect, I don't see Biden doing much either. You know what I mean? And I've read some of the things with especially this latest thing when they talk about, he giving money for crack pipes. Like, I understand what that is. It's not actually, the crack pipes itself, but what it stands for and all that other stuff. I get it.
Yeah.
Why is that even a focus though? Like, I mean, there was so many other things to do. Now, I will tell you, when you ask him, had he been a year that he not voted, it's conflicted. I had the same issue. Like, so after the year that I didn't vote, I was like, all right, this time I'm going to vote. And so I did another research. Didn't like the candidate. Now, I did do all my voting for the local elections, because for me, I think when you start thinking about voting and you make a change, I do believe that you got to get in the local elections. And I also believe that if you're that passionate about change, I think you need to go ahead and get in the legal field. I mean, in the political field yourself. And like we should probably be, state representatives or whatever. But that year, I wrote in Andre 3000 on my ballot for president.
So you pulled a Kanye West.
Yeah, because it's like if you think, and I'm gonna tell you why I did it.
Okay.
3000 had always had. I mean, 3000 always had like a real,
my favorite rapper.
But if you ever listen to that dude talk,
yes,
like theory wise, that dude is deep. You know what I mean? And I'll be truthful. Like, if I wanted somebody to speak on my behalf at that time, it would have been him. It was either him or Mike Tyson.
But hey, you exercised your right. Right. Like at the end of the day, you voted for who you believed in,
right?
And that's part of it. Now, I got a question on this.
Hold on,
go ahead.
So let me add to that. So there were people who exercised their right, and I believe it was in North Carolina in the late, and I want to say this was for state elections. There was a write-in candidate who was getting lots and lots and lots of votes. These nuts.
Man.
Dude got lots of votes. Man. But the thing is, people were exercising.
Yeah.
I look at that as, that's people's frustrations with who the candidates are that are running to represent them. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would rather go and write in these nuts.
Got him.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Instead of voting for these two guys.
Yeah.
Like, you would hope that your politicians would pick up on, the frustrations within the community. Man, we can go on. Okay, so I'm getting a little off topic here. But for political races, you would hope your political candidates will pick up on the vibe of the people.
Yeah.
And that's not really what's happening.
I think that's why I don't like the Biden administration.
Yeah. Do you feel like having multiple black candidates is a negative thing?
Ooh, I'm gonna say no, and I'll tell you why.
All right, cool.
No.
Okay. All right.
Because I mean, so that's a sign of it's options for us to go and, okay, man, we got like 3 or 4 black candidates.
Okay.
Yo, let's go hear what they got to say. And the way politics works though is, if there's like, say there's 10 black candidates, behind closed doors, they go and make deals.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, I'm really wanting to do this. You're leading, and so they narrow it down naturally, right? But I like the options. I like to see, hey man, here's a lot of black candidates. What are their platforms?
Yeah.
What do they have to say? And that shows that, okay, we have some progress. The only problem is we need people to go out and vote. If you look in the city elections, right, when the mayoral election, we've got, Chattanooga is what, 100,000 in the city, something like that, and the people who voted was 10,000, something like that, something around there. Don't hold me to the numbers.
Yeah,
but it's low. It's not to what the people are in Chattanooga.
Nah, it's okay.
Like,
all right, okay, yeah.
Come on, man.
And I got a question on that too, but I'm gonna ask your opinion on it. Is yours similar to his?
Nah, mine is different.
Okay.
And I say you need to have black people or diversity based on the merit, right? Okay. If you look at the dominant culture, right? Yeah. They've been there so long that they come complacent and relax. Mm-hmm. So they can come up and basically just shrug their tie and say, vote for me because I've done well in the past and my family's prominent.
I like it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you get a culture to come up. You get a bald black panel or Latino or someone from the other cabinet, and they're coming up because they're passionate, right? Mm-hmm. They have seen things that have happened in the community, and they're speaking as to true facts and issues that are not only erasing black culture or their culture.
Yeah.
But still at a time where, to be honest, the white people is not the dominant culture as far as census goes, they're reporting.
Yeah.
And so now they're still trying to remain dominant. I say all that to say that when you have somebody that's coming up with a plight and they're passionate about it, they already know in order for them to get in the game, they're going to have to know what they're speaking about. They're going to have to be articulate about it. But then they're going to have to know the legal and the political arenas to say, this is what I want based on this article and this and that, right? So now you got somebody that you can really almost bet that's going to do some work. And if you really think about it, it's good for white people too that are, not as well off, because that's going to allow them to have some resources that they're not going to get.
Yeah.
I think you almost need, and when I say need, it's like a must. It's like when you go to any other job, and I'm not trying to say that, affirmative action, you got to give it to them, just got to give it to them. Black people have been growing intellectually and been gathering a lot of information to be put in positions of power and make very good decisions.
Of course.
Absolutely. Of course.
And I want to add something to what you said about some of these policies which are helping white people too. One of the things I like about, I knew it wasn't going to get passed, but Biden's Build Back Better plan or whatnot, where he had, here's some policies that will help preschool. So, people who make a certain amount of money will, underneath a certain amount of money, will be able to get preschool, access to preschool, whether it's here's an extra X amount of money, or they get to send it for free. And I'm sitting here like, that will be beneficial for us, but it's also beneficial for everybody.
Very true. Yeah.
And again, that's politics where I'm like, the people who are voting against it are.
So when it comes to voting, like, I feel like we have to go super hard and still convincing our people to vote.
Yeah, well, and I'm gonna tell you why I think it is.
So that I like, and I want to hear your opinion on that, but I just don't understand. Like, I feel like when somebody's running for any type of office, right, especially a black person, I feel like a lot of their time is spent just trying to get us out to the polls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's where I've thought about this on many occasions. When you look at how policies are created through the political arena, they don't immediately impact that person in their environment where they're at, right? So say, for example, if you're going through some struggles right now, say student loan issues, right? Killing everybody, right? Yeah. Everybody will agree that they probably should be canceled. I'm going to say that they should be canceled. I really am. I mean, it affects me every paycheck, right? Yeah. And it's the majority of my paycheck, right? So would it help me greatly? Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about it. We've been going through it. When would they ever get to it? So it doesn't immediately impact me. So why am I going to care about all the other stuff? Now, some people will say, well, that's the wrong way to think about things. Well, let's go back and look at history. Let's go back and look at the elderly people in our community, right? You knock on the door, you say, hey, let me get you to sign up to vote. Your vote is important. They're like, nah, I'm good. And the reason they mostly say that, they came from an era where when people knocked on their door and say, hey, we finna make something happen, they made something happen in that community that went global. So they wanted to be a part of it. That was the cog in the machine, right? So now when you knock on the door, you say, hey, I want you to come vote, and they never see that person again. They already know this is a hustle, right?
See, but personally, I think older people are the ones voting more so than the younger generation.
Well, and here's why I think that happened.
Okay.
Obama. Because a lot of them didn't think that they would see a black president. And so now the possibilities are great.
Yeah.
Right.
I was very fortunate, man. I literally turned 18 the year Obama was running. That was like my first vote.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. Man, I can't tell you what my first vote was.
Yeah. I heard you say something about voting in 99, bro.
I had to think about it. I was like 89. It's like Dukakis. I don't think that's what it was. But but I think the other reason why people don't vote is honestly, it's not the apathy. They just don't care about it. I mean, if you think about it, they're gonna do what they want to do anyway. I mean, I've actually taught a class where I've asked some students about voting and their thought process on voting, and I have heard someone say the first time that they voted, they only voted because they thought it was their civic duty. So they went in and just picked the name that they heard most commonly on TV, right? And so the next year they were like, I meant to vote, but I had other things going on, right? So when you become so ingrained in your life and none of those things impact you on that spectrum, where you're going to work, you're making your own money. Now, once it affects you, then
it doesn't hit home.
Yeah.
So you're not. So you feel like that's why the battle is bringing them out.
So back in the day, like you said, people go knock on the door, there would be actual change. So in these communities where you had, black side of town, the white side of town, separated by the train tracks.
Redlining.
When the blacks went to go vote, they got seats on the city or county commission. And those seats would change things. So it may not be, change that, we're all, racism and all that stuff is eliminated. But you know what? Trash is getting picked up in my neighborhood. Yeah. It's not, whereas over here, it's being picked up every Thursday. And over here, we're getting it picked up every 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Now we're getting picked up every Thursday, too. That's something that's actionable.
So you do believe that the voting does create action?
Well, then.
Okay.
Then. You look at the presidential elections, we had Civil Rights Act, Title IX. We had things that people could see that were changing. But then it kind of got to the point where you can't see that change. Like, what's changing?
Well, you know why you can't see the change? There's no educational learning outcomes when it comes to voting, right?
Right.
You don't. Right. So you tell people go vote,
yeah.
Right? And they wonder, what does that vote do? Well, let's talk about, what does a city councilman do, right? Mm-hmm. How can I go to my city councilman and ask him for betterment of my neighborhood, right? So we don't talk about what a senator is, what's his job,
Right.
We know the titles, but what's his job? But what's his responsibility towards me, right? Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes for me, when we go out and we talk about the reasons to do things, we don't educate people as to why.
Understood.
Right? And when we don't do that, to me, everybody been street smart.
Where would the education come from? Like, are you saying more in school, or is it just community wise? Churches talking about it, community leaders. Where would that education even be presented?
So here's why we need to learn our history.
Okay.
Because back in the days, you had someone who spearheaded that because he wanted everybody to know. Right. And we all need to come together, and this is how we mobilize. Right. Now, you almost have to get it yourself.
Understood.
You have to, because we're so disconnected, right? Yeah. And here's the other thing. You're going to have to bring receipts. Because now if I'm getting up and I'm telling you, this and that, and it's like, what this dude want, right?
Yeah.
You got to show the paper, right? And that's the other thing that has gotten us thrown off. Okay. Like, and when we talk about the leaders and where they're at, who is going to be that person? So you have to do it yourself. But here's where I say, now that we know that it's a individualized teaching method, if I'm the person that's knocking on your door trying to get you to sign up, I need to be the person to educate you on how that goes.
Okay.
Right?
And exactly what you were saying is what those people in the past used to do.
But you had one leader then.
Yeah.
And you had one person who spearheaded it.
Yeah.
Now, we're all leaders. We're all Malcolm X's or Marcus Garvey's or
you could trust this organization then. Now I have to trust you and you. Right. Because like you said, we're all it's there's not a collective force that's telling you what all of this is.
So all right, so what are we doing? We talk about the history. We talked about where we want to go, agendas and all that stuff, right? Like what are you all seeing positively now, especially in the Chattanooga community? Anything positive that you are seeing that's affecting us as a culture?
I love that the black people here who are conscious are not afraid to permeate and get into these same venues that they were once not walking into.
Okay.
I love walking downtown and seeing, black folks laughing and being who they are, right? And in the mix of it, right? When I first moved to Chattanooga, I was like, I'm out. I'm a Florida boy. This ain't it. I mean, it was no culture whatsoever.
Okay.
None. And that bothered me. I'm like, give me a Latin person or someone from a Caribbean descent. Give me something.
Listen, I'm from Nashville, man. It's like it's a lot going on out there.
Well, you're saying
Nashville has changed. When I first went to Nashville, I'm like, it ain't nowhere in the world I'm come back here.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ain't riding a horse, I mean, it was straight country. Now you go.
So it wasn't like that when I was there. Like,
I'm telling you, boy.
when I was there, there was a lot of diversity. I mean, there's a lot of Egyptians out there, Kurdish people, Asians, Laotian, like everything. You said what?
This was back. This is now or
no, this is now. But it's so I moved out about like 2008.
And it was like that in 2008?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I don't know what part you were talking about. Horses and buggies and stuff, man.
I went out to Hendersonville a couple of times.
Oh, no, that's Hendersonville. That's the outskirts.
But here's how I ended up in Hendersonville.
Yeah.
Going through downtown, I'm like, I'm gonna kick it downtown. I think I went to 3rd Street. Mm-hmm. And I heard nothing but honky tonk.
I mean, it's the same. It's still the same way you go down on. But that's how they brand it.
Avenue.
That's how they brand it.
But here's the thing. It's funny that you say we talk about branding, right? When you talk about branding and you're trying to bring in revenue, right? At some point, you're gonna have to look at the culture.
So I had this conversation, man. And this is a good point. Like, and that's what Chattanooga too. In my personal opinion, being a black professional here, we, like you said, a lot of movement. People were leaving, going other places. Yeah. I think that in Chattanooga, the culture isn't being brought in. I think they more so. So we're in between Atlanta.
Bro, don't get me
started. Nashville, right?
We should be booming.
Look,
we should be a little Charlotte or a little
Birmingham. That's what I'm saying. Because
Atlanta
is all our culture. Atlanta is our culture, right? Even like, but then you go to Nashville, and they invested in stamping honky tonk, come on down Broadway, like that culture. And I feel like Chattanooga leaned more towards the Nashville side than picking up some of that. Like, let's embark and embrace some of the black culture in the city.
You know why that is?
Professional stuff.
They're gonna have to let go some stuff.
Yeah, because there's no really not a nightlife culture for black people in Chattanooga. You got the cigar bar and
because we don't have and then. It's funny I like that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because for certain establishment or certain established people, they have something like a cigar bar, right? But if you go on another side of town, you got to a hole in the wall and they jumping.
You're right. You're right. There are those.
But the thing is, why would they have to retreat?
Yep. To somewhere else, right?
Right.
It can't.
If they willing to spend their money there. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you good.
But if they willing to spend their money there, I'm pretty sure if they had that same type of welcoming downtown, they'll spend the money there.
Well, but that's historically been the case.
Why? But here's so
it's historically been the case since I was.
Because you've grown up in Chattanooga.
You would have we used to have the River Roast.
Okay.
They'd have artists come in. You go and hang out down there on Ross's Landing, and Friday that's Black People Day. Saturday is where all the white folks come out.
That's how it was with what was they used to do? River Bend. Yeah.
And so, I'd go, me and my friend, we go hang out, kick it on Friday.
Yeah.
And then, you have the events that are going on Saturday. Well, Friday is where the majority of people were because it's a lot of black teenagers.
Yeah.
College kids, and they coming out and hanging out because there's, I think B2K or whoever came out, whatever. But
gotcha.
we're down there hanging out, and it got cut off. They cut off the Friday. They kept the Saturday.
It's crazy.
But then the Saturday, because the Saturday wasn't carrying the event, There's no more River Rose.
And see, that's the thing that bothers me. Like I've even with stuff that we've thrown, like, well, Chattanooga ain't doing this because historically they have always been like this. I don't accept that at all.
Oh no, you got to challenge it because it'll never change if not.
Oh no, yeah. And so we do need that. Well, what was happening when I was graduating from school too is people would leave. Like when I'm in high school, I'm like, oh, we got Blue Cross here, and it may be what I've been exposed to. But I'm thinking, we got Blue Cross here, we got TVA here.
It's great for jobs.
I go off the state, get something back here at home. Most people are like, I'm going to Atlanta or I'm going to Nashville.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they graduate, we're going elsewhere. And most of the people were just straight leaving. Yeah, Chattanooga ain't got. Well, no. That's why I like what you said and what you said. Like there are people here now who are building that culture. I wish that people had started building that culture then.
Yeah.
Even though you're meeting with obstacles, just push through those obstacles. Like that's what people are doing now. They're kind of pushing through some of the pushback. Well, we don't really want you or here or no. There's like, I'm making money.
Yeah.
And I'm here. So
that's a great point. It's a great point, man. Listen, I thank both of you all for your opinions. That was wonderful. That was a great discussion, man. I learned a lot. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Appreciate you for having us, man.
Yeah, most definitely, man. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you all, and we will see you all for our next round. I'm messing that up, bro. You got to cut that out. Purple and gold table talk. So let me try that again. All right. So thank you all for coming to the second and viewing of viewers out there and listeners to the second table talk, purple and gold edition. We hope to see you again and have you here in the future. So thank you.